Hello, and welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Dick Blakely, and Dick is a wealth consultant who's president and CEO of the Blakely Group, Inc., which he founded April 2009. He has over 30 years experience in the investment business, including 27 years as a vice president and group manager at Salomon Smith Barney. Dick and I have known each other for a long time, and so I'm actually pretty excited to have Dick here with me today. The Blakely Group provides functions as a virtual family office for select high-wealth clients. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is when should you have a virtual family office. So welcome, Dick.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
Glad to have you here. Okay, well, with that, we'll just get into it here. So what is a virtual family office?
Well, a virtual family office is the team and the construct that a family will hire to help develop and manage a financial strategy and implementation and keep the plan current. Mm-hmm. Now, the biggest difference is we cannot work for commissions. We are retained by the family. Mm-hmm. And the family's usually looking to do this for 5 real reasons. The first is create and grow wealth, then to protect and maintain wealth, then is to transfer wealth during their lifetime, most tax advantageously, to transfer wealth then after death, not only tax advantageously, but hopefully that'll be as simple and easy during a very tough time. And then finally, it's to realize what the promise that a legacy has that it can offer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, does every financial planning office do this?
Well, usually a lot of folks do not really like to get involved in reality in some of the personal issues that will come up with a family office, because you really need to know who the families are and what are really the issues that are important to the family. How do you get in and work with them? And sometimes it's pleasant and sometimes it's less pleasant than we initially think whenever we take the assignment.
Yeah. So sounds rosy until you start getting into the nitty-gritty details and it's like, ew, do I really want to do this? Okay. So why would someone want to consider having like a virtual family office?
Well, usually the reason the family would want to have a virtual family office is the easy one is basically time and education and training and those efforts. But the real reason ends up is a family is now beginning to think not just for the next year or the next 2 years, they're thinking now for generations forward. They have been realized a certain amount of success, and they do not want it to be 3 generations from shirt sleeves back to shirt sleeves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. All right. At what asset level should someone consider having a virtual family office as opposed to like an internal family office? So for example, I would think that a Steve Jobs, for example, okay, that guy has so much money, he's got to have an internal family office. He's got people working for him managing this stuff alone because there's so much there. So, what are like the cutting areas or dividing lines for these types of services?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone that does have that amount of money will have their own private family office, and it will be internal, and they may have actually a physical location in which to house all of their support staff. And that usually starts at $50 million and above. Because it is quite expensive to have that. Mm-hmm. But the virtual family office can start with $5 million of liquid assets, and it goes up till you get to that $50 million, and it can go even higher. Mm-hmm. As long as it works for you, that is the one that you want to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when somebody thinks about this, one of the concerns that they're going to have is, what do I have to pay for this? What sort of fees are we talking about this compared to like just having asset management done?
Yeah, I looked at that years ago, And there was a wonderful white paper that was written, and it said the reason most people do not consider a family office is that it costs a certain amount of money that seemed to be on what mere mortals can afford to pay.
Yeah.
So, but once we got into the virtual family office, we found out that it does cost about the same amount as what most people are currently paying, whether they have mutual funds or outside money managers. It costs the same amount of money as having a virtual family office in today's money and money management scheme.
So it's almost like you're throwing this additional service in on top of the asset management work that you do.
That's correct. This is, you're usually already paying for it, you're just not receiving the service, as I like to refer to it.
Okay. All right. What is wealth management as contrasted with asset management?
Well, wealth management has to do with a little bit more than just one side of the balance sheet. It's dealing with both sides of the balance sheet. So you're going to include risk management. You may include some debt management with wealth management. And if asset management is just buying and selling stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and moving money around financial markets.
Okay. All right, now here comes the good part. What sorts of family issues do you deal with?
Well, the family issues can be very broad, but quite often they will relate to issues around children and or parents. So it may be special needs children's, it may be around how do I cover a parent or a former partner. Many times I've dealt with asking for prenuptial agreements. I've helped remind people with general nudges as, hey, you've got a grandchild that was just born. Should we call the attorney on your behalf? Then do you really need to make an amendment to cover this new grandchild? It may mean to say is, are you current with your taxes, and or should we now schedule more time to be more successful with your tax planning? The whole idea is that the family issues, we should be looking at both sides of the balance sheet, and not only that is having that humanistic approach to saying, now I can deal with it from an financial engineering, but is it what's good for all the members of the family to be fruitful and successful?
So I would think the best skill for an individual that was doing this type of work is to be a good listener.
A good listener is the start, an active listener as well.
Yeah.
So that, and someone who's caring and compassionate. I think the biggest difference is I want to deal with everything that you do, all the issues that you have, all the way up until the time it gets tough. And then I want out of it, or I will find some reason not to. That's the time you look for someone new, because that person isn't in there looking after the family's best interest for the long term.
So that's what you're looking for is, again, it's you got to put the family's concerns first as a service person, other than making sure that you get paid, but anyway, detail. Okay. In the family context, what is an asset, what is a resource, and what is a tool?